All right, so to in my final lecture, uh, I mean the last part of our second lab, uh, I'm going to tell you something about mixing experimental and filler items. There are some rules and there are some points that I want to mention about how to mix experimental and filler items. And what are those rules? Sorry about. So let me just yeah. So what are those rules when you want to combine experimental and filler items? Number one, your input file must always start with filler items. Why? The reason is very simple because it takes some time for participants to get used to the procedure. So you have explained what to do in the practice or let's say familiarization phase, and they have asked you the questions they had. But again, in the main test, right, it might take them some time, some very short time. That's why we are not putting the main trials at the very beginning of our input file. So start with some filler items. They might not perform ideally at the very beginning. All right. Maybe they do not show their linguistic knowledge. If they do something wrong, maybe it's because of not getting used to the test rather than they don't know something. All right. And then not to we don't put two experimental items one after another. We put some filler items in between. And this is because the result of our experimental reading of our or being exposed to experimental items might uh, uh, take long. Maybe their results might affect following items. And if our following item is again another experimental item, we have ruined that item as well. But if we have some filler items in between, uh, then the result of the experimental item, reading of an experimental item, might ruin some filler items. And if filler items are ruined, it's not that important to us because they are just filler and we are not analyzing the data from filler items. That's why you shouldn't put two experimental items one after another. And yeah, and then generally no special pattern must be detected. Imagine that it's a multiple choice questions. They should select one of the options from A, B, C, or D. So it shouldn't be like uh, A, B, A, B, A, B, C, A, B, A, B, A, B, C. Because in this case, they might say that, okay, so there is a pattern in the answers, and let's not read the stimuli, or let's not pay attention to the stimuli, and let's answer A, B, A, B, A, B, C. That's why you should randomize the answers and no pattern should be detected. All right. So, and this is some examples. For example, here you can see that our Excel file has started with an experimental item which is wrong. It shouldn't be here. Here you can see that we have two experimental items one after another. This is one mistake. and the other one is that again the Excel file has started with an experimental item, so two mistakes. But here, as you can see, we have filler items, so the Excel file has started with filler items, so that's okay. And then you have experimental item, filler, experimental item, filler. So with regard to the point that experimental items should not follow one another, it's okay. With regard to the point that the Excel file should not start with experimental item is okay. But as you can see, we have a pattern. Experimental filler, experimental filler, experimental filler. They might guess that they might find out that, okay, every other item is critical and we should pay more attention to every other items, because these filler items are really cool. They do not have any ambiguity, but these experimental items are the ones that we should pay more attention to. So that's something wrong. All right, so uh, how to apply these rules to the input file? This is called pseudo randomization. All right, so what you should do is that you always insert experimental and filler items in the rows, in separate rows. So you can put experimental items at on the top, and then filler items below. All right, very simple. And then you have index and item number columns as well. Then you should randomize them. How you can do it in Excel is by adding a formula. You add formula equal sign rand, and then open and close parentheses, empty parentheses, and then you enter. It adds a random number in an empty cell. So you should click in the first row, in front of the first item. You should click your mouse, and then you should add the random formula, and it inserts a random number. Next step is that you should drag down this cell, and it copies and pastes the formula in this whole column, as you can see here. Now you have a bunch of random numbers in front of your items. As you can see, they are completely random. So I copied this cell, this first cell, and then I dragged down to the whole file, and now I have a column including a bunch of random numbers. Now what should I do? You come to data in the top bar, all right, and then so sorry about that. So first you select the whole CSV by clicking Control A in Windows machine. So you select everything, and then you select data on the top bar, and then you come to sort by option. As you can see here, you open it, and then you sort by the random column label. So what is the random column label in my CSV file? It is column D. So you sort by column D, and then when you sort it, when you click on the OK button, uh, you will have a file, all right, which is sorted by random numbers, all right. So you will have a mixture of filler and experimental items, which are sorted by column D, which is our random number. And next step is just to remove column D. Just delete column D because we don't need random numbers. So just get rid of column D. Now look at your file and apply the rules. So this is my file, all right? This is my result file. Now, if you look at here, it's randomized. We have item 4 has come to the top, item 1 has gone all the way down. But if you look at this file, my CSV file has started with an experimental item, which is wrong. So I should move it from here, where I should exchange it with a filler item. For example, I can put it here. As you can see here, we have a lot of filler items here. I can grab it from here and move it here. So to item 13. So item 13 will go up. It is a filler item, and item 4 will go down to instead of item 13. Now my file doesn't start with an experimental item. It starts with 2 filler items. The experimental items are not one after another, and we don't have a pattern because we have 2 filler, 1 experimental, 1 filler, 1 experimental, and again 3 filler, 1 experimental, 1 filler, 1 experimental, 3 filler, and experimental. So as you can see, I have pseudo randomized my file. By pseudo randomization, I mean first you fully randomize your file by adding random column and then sorting the data based on the random column. And then you pseudo randomize to apply these rules. That is, you look at your file and then you uh, make some necessary changes. All right. And finally, you should reset the index column. You should reset the numbers in index columns and item number columns. Now, our new first item is this filler, second, third, and so on and so forth. All right. Yeah. So, and then you save this data and you insert it in the loop. Uh, all right, so I think this is our last part of second lecture. I hope you have learned how to make speech perception tasks. I will send you an activity, all right, and then I will also send you a solution to the activity before second homework assignment. Thank you, and yeah, good luck.